Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. I'm your host Scott and I'm not alone, Toby's here too. This episode we're eventually talking about Salem's Lot by Stephen King. It's going to be a pretty spoiler-free episode, but with the very nature and talking about books there probably will be some inevitable spoilers. So if that's okay with you, continue on and I'll see you on the other side.
Structured.
The shambolic way we do things.
Shambolic.
Is it going to be 10 minutes? Is it going to be 2 hours?
Who knows? Welcome back.
Have they both read it? Have neither of them read it? Hey, listeners. It's us.
Welcome back.
It's the Book by Book. It's the Dogearedpagecafe. It's Scott and Toby.
Hey.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Why not?
We've got a backlog of stuff I want to get out.
We just dated this, haven't we?
I have to. It's all right.
We'll keep it. It's funny.
I've got the day off.
We'll
I've got the day off. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Toby? We just
I'm good.
We just caught up off camera.
Yeah. We'll do a really quick recap. Christmas was great. I had my daughter down. We played a lot of VR, open presents. So how are you though?
Not too bad, Toby. I got in from Toronto last night late. The city is on lockdown. I was sort of sneaking back. I didn't want to get caught by the cops.
Oh my God.
There's like a 10 o'clock curfew here.
Really?
And the train got in at like 10:30. But I don't think it was a deal. I don't think they're not really going to crack down on it.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't.
It's a recommendation rather than a.
Also, it's like -10 out there. I just popped out for some milk. You ever have 0% milk? It's all they had left in the shop.
I've seen it. It's the red top stuff, isn't it? Or even.
For you, probably, yeah. I don't think we have the colour system. It's just very watery. I'm digressing, Toby. I've got a great intro for us for this episode. We're going to talk about Stephen King's Salem's Lot. But cast your mind back to probably about 2 years ago. I sent you a link and it was like, hey, check out this thing. I'm not going to say the website because I don't know. I don't really need to. But I'm going to sort of come up with something similar that will give you an understanding of what this website does. So they're called, what are they called? Well, so I'm going to call them like, terrorarea.com. Their name's better than that, but it's something along the lines of dark books. But I was like, hey, they do this a mystery Stephen King box thingy.
Oh yes, I remember you saying you set up for it.
Yeah, and this was like
that was 2 years ago. It was like the beginning of lockdown, wasn't it?
So I've got
one, not six. Lockdown.
I want to I feel like I come off as like the negative Nancy of the episodes of the show. Like a bit nitpicky. I kind of.
Stop. Why do you think that?
Because I feel like when I like a book, you're being sarcastic. Great way to start the year. Sarcasm. We know what Gandhi thinks of that. All right, but I want your positive spin on things.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I'll do my best.
So I put in for this mystery box, and it's like I did the cheap.
Great idea.
I did the cheap tier. It's like probably $100 in total with packaging, maybe $75 or something, but it was from the States. For you, that's probably about £80, £75, I guess.
Yeah.
You're going to get 2 bookmarks. Okay, everyone needs a bookmark. One.
Those are the things that go in the pages when you stop reading.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Doing Saki again, Toby. I'm working in like the least thing to the big. I'm working my way up. A Stephen King artwork, like an original artwork, not by him, but some kind
based
of art
on a piece of work
thing. Yeah. One original hardback, first edition.
Okay. That's cool. You piqued my interest.
One limited edition, unique Stephen King written thing.
Right. Okay.
That's the thing. Let's start off. I know what it is, but you don't. It's a semi-unboxing with the 2 bookmarks.
Okay.
Cool. What do you think they might be? Just I don't know, like just some fun Cujo. I don't know.
Yeah, like an it and I don't know, something theme based. I would have thought so. Maybe like a finger, a nail,
something fun.
Oh, okay.
What you're looking at is a what's the scan thing you get?
A QR code.
QR code for the website, especially a web address for the.
Oh dear.
It's like the company logo. It's not Stephen King related. It's just.
Okay, so.
Okay, mildly disappointing.
Mildly. Yeah, being sarcastic again.
If you ever bought a book from like W.H. Smith's and they want to bookmark with that and they just chuck one in, there's that equivalent from the website. It's not a fun one. And
well, I've spent 75 quid. I'm expecting something that was going to be based around what I was buying, not just promotional material for a company that sells.
And I scanned the PR code. It just takes me to the website.
Brilliant.
So, okay. Well, I think it was just an extra thing, when like Kickstarters are like, oh, what can we give them? I don't know. We'll just give them like, a sticker with a thumbs up or something. They just wanted to put an extra bullet point on the things you get. Let's go to the artwork, shall we?
Yeah.
Hold it up for you, Toby. Oh, it's upside down.
Okay. So that's it. The clown from the film and some balloons. Looks all right.
Not spoke Pennywise movie, not book.
I wouldn't say it's actually huge or anything, but
no, it's a 3.
Yeah,
it's the size I was expecting.
How do you feel about that?
I don't. My initial thought was, "Oh, that's cool." Instantly, I thought, "Where am I going to put that?"
Yeah,
when's that going up in the house? And it is King related. They've got me. I can't really sort of whoever complaints hotline thing.
Yeah, and go.
It's all right. It's cool. It's just basically something I'm going to have to just give away. And I don't know anyone else. Do you want it?
It costs you more to post it than it probably costs to make it.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Well, so, a bit disappointing. Yeah. I guess in my wildest dreams, I was picturing maybe a book cover, but with the text taken off. But so be it. That it was
not
very
framed,
big.
which is I, in an ideal world, I would have liked something that was framed. I guess.
I guess so. But then, would you put that up? Do you want Pennywise from the movie up?
Well, yeah. If I'm buying that type of box, I would assume I would put what I'm being given up on the walls.
Okay, so let's go to the first edition hardback book.
Okay. Yeah. No, what I don't want to see here is any of the Mercedes trilogies.
Okay.
Any of the Gwendy button box stuff that's got Richard Gizmo stuff.
Okay.
Because that's not King. I want horror. I don't want any of his more recent stuff.
What's your in your wildest dreams, knowing how much this box thing cost and seeing my bookmarks and my artwork? What are your wildest dreams and what are your expectations?
For the price that you paid, Dolores Claiborne, anything before then would be good. Anything.
I'm holding it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's Revival by Stephen King in hardback American edition. Can you describe the cover?
Yeah, it's the American edition. It's thunder clack of lightning, good red Stephen King text in Revival. It's glossy. It's nice
words.
cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I feel like
it's a bit like translucent. It's got the oily.
Yeah, it's got a sheen. I feel like it's what do you think? That's all right?
Yeah, well, it just
says Stephen King Revival. There's no cool picture. It's not like his early 80s.
No, it's definitely more modern.
There's not even a church on it. From the little I know about it, there's no images on it. It's just dark, moody skies and lightning.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think the English one's any better. I don't get my copy of it to have a look. But
I'm probably not going to keep this either. Like, I have a cheap paperback. I just look at the size of it. I'm probably moving in a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, when you said I don't want to be able to walk into W.H. Smith's and buy it today.
That is a disappointment.
It's not that old.
No.
Okay, but it's as advertised.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've read a whole bunch anyway, and we were never going to get. Oh, here's the first edition of Carrie in the post or something.
But so far, you've got about $25 worth of return. I don't know how much the books are in Canada, but 25.
Revival hardback like this is like 20, maybe $30, maybe even 40 because it's hardback, but 40 when it was new. Now it's bargain bin. Just because I want to get.
So there is something else to come, though, isn't there?
Yes, the pièce de résistance, Toby. I don't know if I should.
Okay.
It's in a slip case.
Ooh, that's a good start.
Right. I was going to ask you what the worst case could be. You've already brought it up. What's the best case? What's the best case?
Something topical. So Pet
The
Cemetery.
The description was like a bespoke collector's one-of-a-kind limited edition.
Yeah, like a folio edition of something that's relatively new, I guess.
I'm going to hold it up.
Everything that's come before.
I'm holding up to Toby.
Oh no!
That's the response listeners want to hear.
Oh no!
Right,
You've got the forward. It's the only bit by Stephen King.
You picked up on that. That's great. So what I have is Gwendy's Magic Feather,
which is a sequel to Gwendy's Magic Button Box.
Yes. So Stephen King co-wrote a short story with Richard Chizmar.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Chizmar chose to do the sequel alone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a third one out, which they both wrote. So I've got the one that he didn't write. I mean, it's as far as the collectors goes, it's got this nice cut.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm mildly jealous that you've got it. It's pretty swish.
No,
it's
wait,
a nice
Toby.
cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Material-wise, I think I didn't mind the first one, but it's like just shove this in one of your collections. You've read it. I feel like we could just read it again. In like it's very short. It's under 100 pages. We could probably read it and review it next week if we wanted. Toby, hold your horses.
Mm-hmm.
It's signed. This is one of 600 numbered copies, and it's signed by 4 people.
What?
I'm gonna read them out, and I'm gonna blow your mind because what I have in my hand from the Richard King mystery box set is a signed. Yeah, you're right. So Stephen King, just to, if you missed it, wrote the foreword for this. He didn't write it, so I sort of opened it. I was like, oh wow, it didn't even my book written by Stephen King isn't written by Stephen King. Like I was considering writing in, going, you got anything better? Because it's not written by him. Come on, surely that's like the one thing you would want from books written by Stephen King.
That is a cop
books
out.
written by Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, something I forgot to add was that the moment I put in post and pay for this, I got an email going, due to COVID, we're holding it. So that's why it's been like almost 2 years or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me emailing him every 6 months. I don't mind that. That's that's what we do with COVID and stuff. But it just built the anticipation. When Wendy's Magic Feathers, the height of your anticipation. So it is signed by Richard Chizmar.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. I don't really know who he is, if I'm honest. I've never heard of him outside of this. Vincent Sammy. I don't know who that is. I don't know if he did the artwork.
Possibly.
There's 2 more signatures, Toby. By Bev Vincent. Toby, are you excited that I've got a book signed by Bev Vincent?
Who's Bev?
I don't know. Their name's not on the book.
Okay.
And also signed by Glenn Chadbourne. I don't know who he is either, but
damn.
Yeah, I've got a lot of signatures.
It's like they drag people off the street. Can you sign this book for?
Is he the guy who does the website? Because I think the
maybe
website.
It's the guy that printed the bookmarks.
He did the QR code. Yeah.
Oh,
so
dude.
I waited a long time for this, and the sum of my collection is some bookmarks. Who's the actor who plays Pennywise? I forget his name. He's one of the Swedish whatever guys.
Yeah, Strasgard.
Strasgard in Pennywise makeup. Revival, a hardback edition. Yeah, remember when I said I need your positive spin?
Okay, so this is my stance on what you've got there. I am, as a collector of Stephen King stuff, more so than you are, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous of the fact that you've got a US first edition of Revival. That's quite cool. I would love that.
It's yours, mate.
The fact that you've got the Wendy's Feather, the sequel to the one that I have here that was written by Stephen King, which is why I own it. I'm jealous of that. It's a slipcase. It's signed by Richard Chizmar. Not that I'm a massive fan of. I haven't read anything other than Wendy, but I do know who he is. I follow him on Twitter. I've interacted with him a couple of times. He's liked a few of my tweets. He's quite cool. He's a nice guy. As for the other 3 signatures, I've no idea who they are. The bookmarks are a massive disappointment, and they are not something that should be sold as a...
They should take that off the bullet points. Huh?
Yeah, that's just something you chuck in the box as you're putting it out the door. The poster, I could print that here for you if you wanted. But the book and the book, they're all right, but they're not maybe with the fact that it's signed.
I've seen him on like eBay for like $400. I don't know if they sold because you're a collector and you're sort of set where you live. I'm probably moving around a lot in a few years, and I'm not like Marie Kondoing it, but I am getting rid of books I haven't read at this stage because I just can't carry crates of books, like 4 crates of books. Moving city is sort of hassle when I'm not sure if I'm getting a moving van. So I'm already getting books that are like, I haven't read this. I kind of want to, but it's like, this has been on my shelf for 10 years. I think if I really want to read it, I'll buy it again. So I don't know. It's just mildly disappointing, if I'm honest. And that's I feel guilty. I don't know. Like Richard Shamir listens to the podcast, but he's a nice guy, and there's no shade to him for sure. Like I didn't mind.
There's definitely no shade to him because he's a great writer, probably a great writer. He's definitely an up and coming writer, and he could go on to be very successful. To have a signed copy of something that he's done could come back to be worth quite a bit in the future. But you signed up for a Stephen King.
Yeah, that's the key of it, right?
And you basically got revival.
Because he does a lot of forwards, doesn't he? He puts his name to a lot. He helps out a lot of. And I don't think he's just helping out. He's part of the trilogy. Yeah. And I got the middle one. He's not a part of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give it a read. I'll give it a go. It's just yeah. We can move on now. I thought unboxing for 2012. I'm not going to throw shade at their website. I think they do some cool stuff. I've never really bought much off there.
No.
I think they're just in bed with a lot of writers. I know, like Paul Tremblay.
Okay,
Signed and special editions, Clive Barker. I think they're a small website just trying to do something cool, and I respect that. I just think, make sure the books are written by the authors. For. Yeah. It's certainly on my list, but as we know, I mean, all the Kings are on the list, so that means nothing at this stage. You know what was on our list that is no longer on our list? Salem's Lot.
It's not. It is. It's been read. It's been consumed.
I'll have to do to skip to the book review. Go to 10 minutes.
Yeah. You'd be lucky. Half an hour.
Okay. Here's what I thought I could do, Toby.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to dive in with our mostly usual, this happens. This character gets out of bed and has an apple, and then he thinks, did I go to the toilet this morning? Then he puts on his left shoe, and I think he does his shoelace, and then he grabs his other shoe, and it's like, this is a flip-flop. Where's my other shoe?
I love the way that his right lace went over his left lace. Yeah, no, I'm open to, like I said, I read this quite a while ago now. I think I've read a couple of books since then.
We've switched places, Toby.
I know.
It used to be like, hey, let's read a book. Me, Toby, like a week later. Toby, I'm halfway through. How you doing? I've opened it. I've opened it, and that is not a lie. But now we've completely flipped. Yeah. Toby's knocking out 700 pages in 2 weeks, and I'm like, I haven't even found the book yet, sort of thing. And this is what you get for it, Toby. You get to have read it so long ago that your opinion is a bit. I think I felt that I liked it. I think it's been about 3 or 4 months for you. Before we go, I was just going to give a real quick, don't laugh, a real quick synopsis of the events, but like pound it out.
Go.
Okay. We start off with an old man and a little kid in Mexico hiding out, and they basically are running from something. And they have a dark past, like looking out for papers. It's like, they're after us. Who's after you? I don't know. It's the intriguing intro. And then we just jump to like, I don't know, 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
And so Ben, a budding writer, no, he's not. He's like just a writer, successful writer.
No, yeah, he's a successful writer.
Is returning home. Yeah, is returning home to the town of Jerusalem's Lot because he has an idea. He grew up there as a kid, and there was like a haunted house where someone died, and the kids were like, oh, someone hung themselves in that house. He meets this young girl, and they start dating, and we just get a lot of snapshots of the town, and he meets up with like his old English teacher, a mortician, a sheriff, some characters whose jobs don't define them. There's just kids start going missing. Spoiler alert, it's a vampire novel. The town is just slowly being taken over by vampires. And it's down to this writer and his little ragtag crew of locals to stop the vampires.
Yep, that's it. In a nutshell.
Is that all right for a synopsis?
I think that's a great overview. That sums it up exactly.
I mean, you can get that much from the back of the book or the DVD. I was super looking forward to this. I've said it so many times before. Like there's only one more book of his 70s material for me. Fans love this book. Kind of, actually. The more I looked, there's a bit of a divide, but mostly this has a hard following. It's his second book. We talked about this when we did Blaze. He wrote a bit of an outline for Blaze, which we've covered. And he wrote the outline for this, Salem's Lot, and he sent them both to his editor. He was like, just do Salem's Lot. And 700 pages. 6. Fairly beasty.
Yep, it's a big one.
This one didn't go quick for me. Normally I say, the thing about Kings, they're big, but they go quick. You definitely heard that on the podcast from me. Not this time.
Okay.
You were anticipating reading this one? This was like a good one to read on the list, or one you wanted to knock off?
No, I was very. I would never say that Stephen King was one to knock off, to get over with and get through. No, it's definitely up there with ones that I've wanted to read for quite a while. I wasn't in any rush to get to it, but because it's one of his earlier ones, it was exciting to go back. We've spoken previously in some of our other casts about nostalgic King and old school King, and the way he used to write versus what he does now, and the way the style he has now. And it's a lot more laboured, I think. And this personified that in essence. I think there was a lot of it didn't drag at any point, but it was a lot of exposition and setting the scene and getting you used to the town and the people and the motions of life and all the things that he became really efficient at later on, I think.
Yeah, like he's not famous for, but eagle-eyed, not even that eagle-eyed, but he gets the sort of, he's reusing ideas. And I found some of them, what for me feels like if I hadn't read The Stand and listened to the audiobook 10 times, I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty sure he takes this, what he's trying to do here, I'll give you an example of it later, he will try and do again in The Stand, for example, and just better. Like he's taking the feelings and ideas he wants and recycle them, as it were. Yeah, but I don't think in a negative way, per se, for the examples I have.
Yeah, okay.
So after you finish the book, because you were sending me a lot of the WoW text, because we were trying to read in sync. It was like, okay, get to part 1, maybe we'll just record part 1, but you think I'd done 10 pages and you've done 300, so I was like, just you're on a roll, just get to there. Because I remember saying, is there enough in part 1? I think it's a 3-part book if we take out the intro. Yeah. Can we do a whole podcast on part 1?
About halfway through, I was like, oh yeah, we could get a good sizable chunk of podcast out of this. But then it didn't really do anything more in that first section. It was like, it introduced a lot of characters, and then it just kept with those characters going through their life. And then the whole time on the hill was this house, and somebody'd moved into it.
Hubie House? Hubie House.
Yeah, him.
I'm glad I asked you for the clarification.
It's not actually written in his, don't think it's written down here, which is the person who previously had died when our writer Ben was a kid in Salem's Lot, or Jerusalem's Lot. This person, Hubie, and his wife had previously died in the house. And they were the ghosts, the spirits, the spooks that kids tell the stories of.
Give the town a heart of its eerie feeling.
Yeah. But so somebody moved into this house, and so the whole part of the first book, you spent most of your time with people and establishing characters in the town, with this menace on the hill that didn't really do much, but you knew it was there.
So Ben initially wanted to rent this house. He as a kid, as a dare, long after the bodies had been removed and it was just an abandoned house, snuck into the house, and he swears he saw like a hanging body. It's a prime example of the same thing with if you believe it when you're young, it's real. It kind of, I don't know. Do you feel like it gels when I don't know how old Ben is supposed to be, 30, in his 30s?
Yeah.
You know, saying to someone, I saw it was real, so it was real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you say that now? Like, stone-faced, po-faced. When I was young, I saw a hanging body that existed.
No, I think so.
But it was real because I believed it.
If it was emblazoned on my mind, and if I'm fully convinced that happened, even though it defies all logic, adult logic, but it's still me. That thing that happened is always going to have happened. And no matter how much logic you put on it that you get from being an adult, it's still going to feel real. So you could sell it as real for sure.
I've never asked you, have you ever seen a ghost?
No.
Do you believe you've seen a ghost? No. Quick answer to that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't believe in them, but I've never seen them. Thought I saw one the other day, but it turned out to be the clothes horse.
That was a very casual drop in. I saw one the other day. It was like a Victorian woman wailing in the old part of Montreal. I think it was one of those reenactment workers. They sort of do it sometimes, but it was spooky. She was just sat there aside from everyone, just sort of, I don't know, she wasn't waiting to eat a sandwich, but I could definitely have taken a picture and said it was a ghost.
She's eating a sandwich.
Well, she was like dressed all Victorian, you know what I mean? Like a reenactment style.
But I've got a similar story. We're going off tangent here, but I once saw Big Bird in Central Park eating a sandwich on a bench.
Big Bird?
Yeah, the Big Bird. You like the Sesame Street Big Bird, the big yellow
one. Big yellow one.
Yeah.
Oh.
He looked really unhappy.
In his natural habitat.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the end of that story.
What did you think of the book?
Well, it wasn't the strongest one for me. Carrie, my mother to my daughter, she had never read any Stephen King. This was the first Stephen King book she ever read. And I gave it to her because I had a whole softback edition, and she loved it. Absolutely battered it. She just started and just consumed it while she was working nights in a job. She hasn't read any Stephen King again since, but she said it's one of the best books she's ever read. So I found that interesting because I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to enjoy it. And again, that might have been because we were watching Midnight Mass, and I built it up over many years as it's going to be The Shining. It's going to be super scary. And it wasn't scary, really. There was a couple of moments that were very tense, and a couple of the characters I really liked got knocked off, which I didn't expect, but it wasn't that scary.
In my head, I sort of, this is what is 70s material. Like I sort of picture it when it first came out, kids passing it to each other, like, oh, Steve, read this, passing it under like the desk. I guess there's a cool intro, and he says he was talking with his wife. What would happen if Dracula was in modern day New York City? She was like, he would get hit by a cab. It would be a short story. He'd be dead. He said, all right. But what if, he's a smart guy. The scene in Whitby, I guess, he probably would pick a small town. And so, but obviously I see what he's doing. He was like, okay, can I rewrite Dracula, as it were?
Yeah.
Are you a fan of vampire novels? Have you read many?
I think this is the first one I've ever read, to be honest.
That's
Apart
cool.
from Darren Shat, I did read The Vampire's Assistant.
Oh, okay. That's
a kid's one.
Goosebump level?
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter level?
Yeah, Harry Potter, definitely. But other than that, this is probably, and it's probably, I wouldn't say it's a pinnacle, like Dracula's a pinnacle, but after Dracula, you'd argue Salem's Lot is up there with.
Yeah, I was like, this can't be the first vampire novel since Dracula. I find it so hard to believe. Kind of seems like it is. Just mind blowing for me. In your head, you're just like, no, there's and then blank. I have read Dracula. And it's funny. I sort of I guess something else he talks about is when he was a kid, his mum would get him any book he wanted, but she'd be like, "This is a cheap one," as in cheap material. Like this is brain dead. And he was like, Dracula was the first sort of horror that she didn't say it about. It seems totally obvious now that he would be really into it. Dracula is all letters from Jonathan to Mina, diary entries. The whole, I'm pretty sure the whole book is someone's POV. And for the longest time, King inserts those. I'm not actually that fan of it. Like Carrie does this. Like, why the hell are we're climaxing the book with news articles? What the F? But we're not getting to that now. It does work, as it were. But so many of his books just jump diary form out of nowhere. And it totally makes sense that he's a massive fan of Dracula. And I guess I never really thought about I guess I took for granted what Salem's Lot was or it was trying to be. We'll talk about the TV movie in a little bit.
Because which I haven't seen.
It's more iconic to me because of the cover and the Nosferatu style way they picture it.
Completely agree.
I found this book a bit of a bore and a hell of a drag.
Really?
Yeah. This is, what took me so long when you were like, have you finished it? And I said, no, not quite. I had. I just had nothing to say about it.
That's interesting.
Like, my opinion is just, it's all right. Just a shrug. And I was, like I said, I'm so tired of being the naysayer. So I'm like, you know what? I've got the audiobook. I'm going in again. So I just jumped into the audiobook. It's all right. It's a bit boring. It's a bit of drag. I'm like, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
There's a BBC 6-part radio play that's about probably 4 hours in total. I jumped in on it. It's on YouTube. Just Google it, or I'll put it in a link or something. It's kind of fun. Nice to hear the voices later out a bit. It's all right.
Yeah.
I'm watching the movie. I need to have something interesting to say.
Yeah.
I rented the movie. I watched the movie.
This is the old one.
Yeah. Oof. When you don't like a story and you find it boring, doing it again in 4 or 5 separate mediums instantaneously after each other doesn't just miraculously give you inspiration or something interesting to say. So I tried, Toby, is my point. I tried. I do have some nice things to say about it. There's some great writing in here. There's just the feel of some things are nice.
That's exactly it. It was never bad, but it wasn't brilliant.
But it was.
Do you think it was bad?
No, I can see why the people who love it.
Yeah.
I guess time and time again, I forget that Stephen King is a slow burner, which sounds crazy because of how many of his I've read and how many the ones I love are slow burners. But I don't know, like The Shining. When I remember, I cast your way back to however many years ago, when I was like, it's not very happening. Even when there is action, it's very, a creeping hand is the height of adrenaline.
Yeah, a hose pipe.
I guess for some reason I just not forget, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I don't know if it's more like, actually, I think I need to read his slower and let it sink in. Do you find, since we've been doing the podcast, you can read when you know we're going to podcast the book? Are you just reading as you used to read? Like, I'm in the book, I'm reading the book. I'm not thinking about standout lines or...
Yeah, that was good. There are moments when I'll read a section and the section will grab me or take my breath away, or I'll forget what I'm doing, or there'll be a single line of dialogue or a description that just pings off the page and makes you go, "Gosh, that was good. I'll remember to say something about that in the podcast." But outside of that, I'm reading the book. And the thing with me is, I know that some people read books and they don't read every word. They don't read the ands, the its, the buts, the things. They just... I read every single word. And I quite often will notice like spelling mistakes or misprints.
That's cool. What edition of Salem's? I would have thought by now that book is solid proof. Like, I'm reading the most recent, I guess, American Continent paperback. You're a collector. Do you have a first of that? No, that's a second.
No. It's
valued levels.
The level, yeah. There's, I think, the original print of that. There's one that's very scarce to get, and it's well over £2,000-3,000 worth of purchase price, because it's got a dust jacket with a corner missing and a misspelling of Callahan.
It's like the stamp with the upside down airplane. It's like the flaws are the thing that make it super valuable. This book starts well, once we get into the characters, Ben, and can you remember his lady friend?
Susan, is it?
Yes. Their relationship kicks off the novel. Well, not kicks off the novel, but kicks off the story in the modern day. I found that pretty forced and stilted, and just, almost like back then there was a certain amount of pulp writing, and this felt like the culmination of that. Like they just met at the park, and she was reading one of his books. He's an author who had a success and he's trying to write his next big thing, and now young girls are fawning all over him and declaring they love him after like a week. Do you think there was some ego projection going on?
Possibly. Maybe they say write what you know. Maybe that is what it was like back then.
If you finished writing something, you're a successful.
I can imagine if you're an intellect, you've got fame and notoriety behind you. You will be attractive to younger women. I did find the whole idea of the fact that she's 18 and he's like 30 or something. That's what I picked up on. I thought that was a bit odd. That how quickly they just were together, and then he was going back to it's like the same day or something, or the day after.
He was eating with their parents.
He was eating with their parents, and they were happy with it, or the mother wasn't, but the father was all down with him and drinking beers, and especially in the smaller towns, which Salem lot is.
She had a boyfriend.
She was a hussy.
What a hussy!
But he was a bit of a dick, wasn't he? If I remember rightly.
I'm gonna go through some of my notes if it's cool.
Yeah,
they're a bit jumbled, so work with me.
That's quite all right.
The first one means nothing to me. Can't out of it, the outsider. Can't out of it, the outsider.
That's the art of note making right there.
Yeah. This is typed, it's not even handwriting.
Wow. I mean, there's probably an element of the outsider in there, but
just edit that one out, Toby.
Yeah.
Did you follow all the characters? Did you know when you were the teacher, when you were the mortician? I got character jumbled a bit more than I would have liked to.
I did a bit earlier on in the first book, but by the end of it, I'd gotten used to who I was with and whatnot. I did feel like a lot of the people felt very similar. Yeah,
but that probably adds up to why I got the character mixed up.
Yeah, they weren't distinguishable enough from like the person in the bed versus the priest versus the
and as a result, I think the kid is written. I've kept forgetting he was a kid. He would literally be there in the action, and I'll be like, is that the teacher? I forget who he is. And then there'll be this reminder far into the action that he's a kid. And I'm like, I did not buy this, that there's this 15-year-old floating around with them in this heart of danger. Or I just forgot.
Mark Pitier. No, see, I thought he was one of the best characters.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was brilliant. And I really enjoyed Susan as well.
Can you tell me a little about those two arcs? Since we've done we dropped the detailed plot. If you haven't read it, that's going to mean little. So tell me about those two characters.
So Mark Pitier is he's like a 14, maybe 13 to 15, somewhere around there.
He's on a school bus.
Horror enthusiast. He's fully. He reads all the material. He knows what vampires are. He knows what Frankenstein is and the Thing, Swamp Thing. He's got all the creatures. He collects all the trading cards. Classics. Yeah, and all that sort of thing. So he's fully on board, and he's one of the first to clock what's going on around the town. And then Susan, she is somebody that she's this student who falls in love with our lead character Ben, and is kind of she's just attracted to him and is in awe of him. And then once things start to go down, and Ben, the guys from his teacher and somebody else, they start to work out what is happening in the town, that there is the possibility that vampires are there. And then Mark comes along and goes, there's vampires here, here's my proof. And they do a little bit of investigating. They tell the story to Susan. When it's in essence that thing of like, when all possibilities have been explored, the only thing that's left has got to be the thing that's right. But she gets to that point with it all, where she takes it upon herself to go and investigate.
Not the smartest move. I do have a note that says Mark's a bit lost, boys. But I'm thinking maybe the Lost Boys got that from there.
Yeah, probably.
Potentially to an extent.
But the fact that he's all like, holy water, we need holy water, we need steaks, we need this. That was cool. I really liked his character.
I guess I have a note that ties in. He's into the horror stuff. He's into his classic horrors. And the main character, Ben, is a horror writer. Do you think he sets these up so we can jump into them believing the supernatural more? Like if Ben had been an accountant, the speed of his believability is advanced, and we can get on board with that if he's a horror writer. Because he just is open to these things more.
I guess it is that. It does open the door a little bit quicker, but I don't think he spends a lot of time trying to hammer that home. We don't spend a lot of time with the fact that Ben's a horror writer. We just he wrote a successful horror novel, or a successful novel, and he's now looking for his next big hit. That's about all we need to know about it.
But you don't think that's key to his character, that there's a sort of bit of the opening which doesn't quite come too back to it, if memory serves. That his wife died he was previously married and she died in a motorbike accident.
Yes, yeah.
So these things feel like, they say write 5 pages of your character's backstory that won't go into the story, but they just create the character. Because I guess I kept thinking that would come back, and it came back in little bits, like when the mum was disapproving. It was like, did you know he was married and she died? It's not like she got out of her grave and
no.
I don't know if there was a question there. Sorry.
I'm trying to think if it had any bearing on the whole of the story, like his connection with Susan and his protectiveness.
Because it almost would have worked more in the favour if he was pushing her away. He was more of an outsider.
I guess for me, what it possibly does, that because he lost his previous wife, he is therefore there's more urgency for him to protect Susan and keep Susan safe and not let the same thing happen to her, because he failed in this previous relationship of achieving that. Because he's very sort of not controlling, but he is like, don't do anything without us. Don't go off and do this. Don't go off and do that. But she's an independent woman and strong-minded and to comeuppance for it. But
I keep talking about the stand with this one because I think, like Susan, I think he recycles her and what he wants to do with her into bollocks, I should have done some research. The girl who's pregnant in the stand.
The one with the white streak through her hair.
No. The good girl, I guess. The one that within the TV, Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
She has this boyfriend. She's from this small town. She has this sort of life set of front of her, and I don't know, just the setup feels very similar to the stand. And he starts using names from the stand, and I don't know if it's like in universe or not. Floyd Tibbets rocks up in this book. I think Floyd Tibbets in this book is her ex-boyfriend.
Right.
In the stand, there's a petty criminal who, once the virus thing kicks off, is locked in a jail cell.
Yeah.
And the Dark Man basically makes him his left-hand man. So he's there. He's literally right next to the devil, as it were, in the stand. Right. I don't know if that's meant to be the same character. I want to go back and reread the stand to know if he clips in his childhood or if it's just he liked the name.
Possibly.
Interesting. But that puts vampires into the stand world. And this is a big universe built book for King, actually. The priest, you can tell me if I need to cut this out, the priest kind of disappears in the middle of this book.
That's weird what happens with the priest, isn't it?
Yeah.
I expected him to be a lot more involved in this story than he was. He has moments, and then the vampire just does something to him, sends him insane, and then he's gone.
Basically strips his faith away, right? Now, here's my problem is that having the book, the audio book, the radio play, the movie, and the movie was the last thing I did, and it's the most easy to remember. I don't they change stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for the worst, but I don't want to say this happens in the book when I was wrong. But Barlow, which we will get around to in a bit, sort of stares down with the priest, and the priest has his cross, and he's like, it doesn't work because you don't believe anymore. And he sort of live strips his faith away from him. And then he just does a runner.
Yep. And becomes an alcoholic.
You know where he pops up? You know what book that priest is a big part of, apparently?
No.
Which universe builds, and so they say explains a bit of where Barlow come from. Mid-book of the Dark Tower series.
Oh, really?
The priest
I've heard
rocks
of
up.
that, yeah.
Like I said, I don't really remember much about the priest because the characters were such a mix-up.
Yeah. He's that little, like you said, that ragtag bunch. They're all on board quite quickly, and they all do a lot of good, sort of good-sided research. Pull it all together and formulate a really good plan. And in that sense, they're quite a good little bunch of people to attempt to take this on. But it's just odd that he confines it all to the hospital bed.
He does, doesn't he? Our main character gets.
Is it the main character? Yeah, our main character gets beaten up, doesn't he? But isn't one of them goes? Oh, that's it. They go to do some investigation, and then they get attacked. And while they're attacked, they get taken back to the hospital room or something along those lines.
I think
it's got all the
it's
books.
Floyd Tibbets. I think
Floyd Tibbets punches Ben.
Yeah, he
gets
puts him in hospital. No?
Puts him in. I don't think he puts him in hospital, but he batters him pretty badly. But you've got the teacher guy has a heart attack, and he's the one that does all the research with all the books, and he spends most of the time in the hospital bed. So they're always going back to visit him in the hospital room, which is where most
Ben in the hospital.
No,
because that's where he's not there when Susan goes to investigate, and his last words are like, "Stay out of the house," and she's like, he said something like, "Go to the house," and then he sort of passes out, and that's when she goes solo. Oh no, five incarnations of the story, and I'm not clear. So yeah, sorry, going back to, he was going to write a sequel with the priest, but he put that into the Dark Tower story.
Okay. And
here's where we're going to do, I don't know if world building is a bit, but this came from a short story called Jerusalem's Lot, which is in Skeleton Key, maybe one of his things. There's a TV show called Chapelthwaite, which are in like their third season, which is like 10 years after. I think Jerusalem's Lot. Definitely second.
Yeah, okay.
Not third. I guess they didn't want anyone to think it was related to Salem's Lot. I didn't know that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I had heard of Chapelthwaite. It looks quite good. It's got relatively good, strong reviews. It's set before this.
Okay.
Before the book. It's set in like a slave era and all that sort of thing.
Oh, like a different time zone. Interesting, because the vampire arrives within that book. It's not like he's been there hundreds of years, like Pennywise or something. Here's something that is positive from me. Every now and then he will just do these chapters from the point of view of the town. And I really like that writing.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that kind of what slowed it down a bit. Here's this character. She's putting her baby to bed, and man, was he a downer.
Oh my God.
Jeez. I guess it's just to show. I mean, they all were, no? Like the vignette scenes were just, he would come back to this, and I guess he probably did it in Carrie, like small towns hide their dark secrets. Like,
yes.
I guess for this era, I don't know if it was just, small towns were advertised like that whole, Simpsons were like Springfield with a sunny valley picture.
Yeah.
And it was just big city life. That's for perverts and bankers. Be wholesome and live in small towns and drink fresh orange juice. Like those chapters were the most pleasant to read. For sure.
Yeah, and like you say, they did slow it. They slowed it down, but they were the exposition areas. They just kept giving you snapshots of what everybody else is doing while the house on the hill is looming, and Ben and Susan are falling in love, and the little boys go missing.
And is it forecasting if you just say this guy gonna die, or is that just the boy said goodbye to his father? He would die later in this story.
Yeah,
is that foreshadowing, or is that just
no? That's what King does really, really well.
Yeah,
especially in some of his later novels.
Pet Cemetery breaks my goddamn heart, because there's the fun scene when he's playing with Cage, the little baby. It just ends it with, in 3 weeks' time, Cage would be dead. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so good when he does that.
He does it well. And this was a good example. Oh, here's something I wrote. Like Midnight Mass, there's gravitas of getting a doctor on board on your side via the belief system. As in, me and you say, there's vampires out there, but if one of us is a doctor, there's more weight in like, well, there's some sort of science behind it.
Yeah.
Not to say just, I don't know. But
no, it goes back to what I was saying earlier on about if you explore all avenues, the only one that's left has to be the truth. And the fact that they bring the doctor in and the doctor does all the research and looks at all the white blood cell, red blood cell stuff and eliminates any possibility of it being anything that's commonplace and explainable, then the unexplained is all that's left. And then it makes it more believable for Susan, more believable for the English teacher, more believable for the doctor himself, because he has to go, and that's what puts him in the jeopardy and the other guy in jeopardy when they go and do the investigation. Yeah.
Booby trap, huh? I think we've made it this far. We don't have to put any spoilers in, which is kind of cool. But like, that's not to say there's no action. I feel like a fun scene we can talk about that's early that I'm happy to talk about that doesn't feel spoilerish. Like, and there's a scene which threw me a bit, but when I talked to you, it was very clear. A man takes another drunk guy home with him and puts him in another bedroom. And very due to Bram Stoker's law, there's like someone out on the window tapping, saying, "Let me in." Like they have to be invited in. And the person in the house who isn't being visited by said vampire outside is just listening and crapping his pants. You really like that scene, if memory serves? Because I remember going, I don't mean it won't. Because if you don't know that they're vampires at this stage, I'd be like, is someone in there? Is there someone climbing in your window? Who is that? Like, he was just shitting himself. But I guess it's that thing of just the dark feeling the vampires bring.
The essence, presence, the conversation, what was being said, the whispered voices versus the slurred.
Is it in your head?
The creeping down a dark corridor in an unknown house. The very fact that they're on the second floor of this place in a house that he knows nobody's come in, and there was nobody in there when he left the guy. There's a whole mass swaths of elements that gives you the heebie-jeebies. If I was in that same position, I would just be like, what the hell is going on upstairs? How the hell did you get there in the first place? Why are you talking? Jesus Christ, my heart is pounding. I'm old. I'm going to have a heart attack.
He went very classic with those moments of like gothic horror, like because there's literally a horror scene playing out, and very much I guess Frankenstein does that 100%. We're in the next room, like we never see any action in Frankenstein. We come onto the scene afterwards, or we're listening from outside. I guess at that time it was a weird choice to stay with that character rather than be in the room. Here's a note I have. It's a very classic vampires. Is it too classic? He doesn't really add anything to the... I didn't feel like he really added anything to the vampire mythos or lore, which might not have been his intention, but nonetheless, horror maestro Stephen King rewrites Dracula, but what did he bring?
That's a good question. Trying to think whether time period it was written in has any bearing on it.
Just the setting. He brought a modern setting.
It's quite new. Like you say, there isn't an awful lot of based on our very limited research vampire novels outside of Dracula. And
they just go, people say, oh, Twilight, when they became sexy. I'm like, no, Anne Rice was writing not sex, but she adulted them. She made them lustful, and I guess she did the fun thing of characterizing them and putting them in the center. But you know what I mean, like the classic vampire-wise, there's not too many rip-offs.
Yeah, no, I don't think he doesn't really bring anything. I guess this is what he does new, that he does different to every other vampire novel that I haven't read. They're about a vampire, Dracula. Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire is about a vampire. This isn't about a vampire. This is about a town becoming vampires.
Oh, it's Midnight Mass before Midnight Mass.
It's isn't it? Because how much time do we actually spend with the central vampire?
That's next on my list, Toby. We haven't talked about Barlow or his familiar.
Yeah, the familiar. We spend a lot of time with the familiar, but we don't spend very little time with Barlow.
Mm.
We don't know very much about him at all. We hardly see him. He's always hidden somewhere. We don't know where. There's a big, let's find him. Where will he be? There was some chalk. There was this. There's clues. The people that do all the vampire turning, the tapping on the window, they are people that have been turned,
the
not
minions,
Barlow.
if you will.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's what he does differently, and that's what he brings.
It's the small, like I said, the town is a character.
Mm-hmm.
This one,
which is probably why we spend so much time in the lot.
Barlow and the familiar.
Yeah.
Quite, because like you said, the familiar, I forget his name. Do you have the familiar's name? The familiar, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, is the guy who isn't a vampire that helps him out. The guy who will like ship his coffin and can, you know.
The guy who's been promised immortality and can walk around in sunlight and do all the play stuff that he can't do because he's a vampire.
Butler, really, non-vampire butler.
No, I can't find it.
Because he has a nice sinister feel to him.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. And then when we finally meet Barlow, it's like, you might as well be the familiar. I didn't really feel like, I don't know if Barlow was a disappointment, but Barlow's nothing like the movie. If you've seen the movie or the poster, the movie went a more Nosferatu route. He's like a grey-skinned monster that doesn't speak. And we can talk about that a little bit. I guess you haven't seen it. I don't have too much to say. But Barlow is a character and he can speak. Like, I think he's the one who showdowns with the priest. Like, when he is in it, I guess he's quite striking.
Yeah.
But doesn't really separate himself from the familiar to me.
I would say the familiar.
He just businessmans it.
See, for me, the familiar feels like, going back to the Buffy reference, it feels like one of the Hush episodes. He feels like the Nosferatu character, the familiar for me.
Oh, okay.
And Barlow feels the actual vampire. He is always just in the background, and when he comes out, he is menacing and overpowering.
Chatty, isn't he?
Yeah, we don't really see a lot more than that. He's He's always cowering in a corner or black, like sleeping. He's clever, intelligent. I mean, the way that he dodges the traps and sets up traps.
Yeah, I guess that's where the whole Lost Boys thing came in. It goes, when you invade a house that has traps, some of the characters, I don't know, spoilers, may or may not meet their demise via Home Alone-like contraptions.
Which is pretty nasty, that one.
It felt unfair. It's like, I guess sometimes you forget. I still forget. Going all the way back to why his wife died, potentially because this character knows that these things happen in life, that people die. That stark reminder.
Yes.
That life is short. Like I said, a lot of stuff just got jumbled for me. Like the stuff in the house at the end was cool, but I was, when you're not 100% which character it is, but you know what? Like you said, people die, and every time someone died, I sort of wasn't expecting it to happen. I was like, I think it'll just be a soft book where one or two people die. Arguably, this book goes like in apocalypse levels, no?
Yeah, completely.
Which I wasn't expecting, but also they do it in a very. He writes it in a very low key way, no? Which is odd. Classic King themes. Fear builds fear. Belief is a solid form. We'll get this in it. Oh, I've already talked about that. Yeah, I'm going around in circles again.
It wasn't his best. I was mildly disappointed, but I never found it a slog to read, but I was glad to get to the end of it. He's finding a style and getting a way of that I come to love, which he goes on to finesse and panache.
What would his next? What's his third book? What would his next book be?
Carrie Salem's like The Shining.
Ah, okay.
Then Rage, The Stand, The Long Walk.
Have you read Salem's Lot? What did you think? Leave some comments.
Yeah, some thoughts. We will endeavour to answer them with our own thoughts.
we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.